Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Weber. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I've just started a channel where I do Let's Plays of various video games that I have. See, I've got this idea that, I play quite a bit of video games, and, it tests my skills as well as my wife's patience. So I figured if I recorded Let's Plays, I'd have maybe a little bit more of an excuse as to why I can say that I'm doing a creative project or something like that. So we're going to start off in KSP. If you're watching this, you probably know what KSP is. It's the game where we launch little green men into space. It's one of my favorites, and I've spent way too much time on it, although is there really too much time that you can spend playing Kerbal Space Program? So as you can see here, what I'm basically doing is just essentially building a rocket to get a probe into space. This probe has KSP Mapsat on it, and I'm going to be launching this little satellite thingy up, and we are going to be doing... Ultimately, the plan is to make a manned mission to Moho. That's right. I'm going to call it Sweet EMohoTions. I thought that was a little clever. I do think I'm clever. Anyways, so here we are building this rocket. This is actually a design that I don't normally use. It's interesting. I saw it on a YouTube channel, and if I can remember where it is, I'll tell you. Basically, it helps to spread the weight out closer to our ship. And so here we are. This is actually my first try at launching. You can see it's a little unstable, and I thought, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll just steer it manually, and no problem. Here I am trying to get it into orbit, and eventually, are we going to get it? Oh, no, it turned into a rubber band. Oh, look at that. I forgot to put a few supports on it. So here we go. Stick a few supports here. And basically what the plan for this first one is we're going to head out to Moho. Here I am using the Protractor mod, planning my injection. We're going to go out to Moho and plan on a map. Now, the mods that I'm using right now is, there's a few extra parts that I'm using, and I will also be using Mechjeb, only I don't really like Mechjeb for a lot of things like taking off, or sometimes I'll use it for landing because I find it sort of tedious, but mostly, for the most part, I'm using Mechjeb just to see where my stats are. I like to keep an eye on my delta V, and I don't really know how to do that with fuel. I'm sure I could do all the calculations and stuff like that, but for the most part, I'm using it for the data that it shows me. You can see I have the orbit info up in the corner there, and just keeping an eye out on that as I launch off with my rocket and gain orbit here. So here you see we're just launching into orbit, and this will give me a good chance to tell you about the other mod that you saw earlier, Protractor. I'm not sure if anyone's used Protractor before, but it is highly useful for transfer injection angle calculating. I think that's what you call it. Basically, the idea is when you do a transfer from one planet to another, you want to make sure that you're taking off at the right time of year. So in this case, moving from Kerbal to Moho, we want to make sure that we're taking off at the right time to make it most efficient. Now, I'm not exactly sure what happened because it doesn't seem like it's that efficient, but I went back, I did a whole bunch of math today, and I calculated that it takes a freaking lot of delta V to get to Moho and to stop because Moho doesn't have an atmosphere. So basically for this first round of Let's Plays, I pretty much picked the hardest planet to get to out of all of them. So we might fail, but if we fail, we're going to do it spectacularly. So while Moho's the hardest to get to, it's definitely, I don't know that it's necessarily the hardest planet to get to, land on, and take off. I think that might go to Eve, because it's very, very hard to get off of Eve. Eve has such a thick atmosphere, and Moho is pretty much a piece of cake to get on and off because there is no atmosphere. It's kind of like landing on the moon or whatever you want to call it. So here we are. We're burning out for our transfer to Moho. Now, I'm not exactly sure what happened. I followed the plans as far as Protractor goes, and I did the calculations on the online calculator. And for some reason, it didn't exactly work. I'm not sure why. It definitely does take a ton of delta V in order to change the phase angle in order to get us lined up. That's for those of you who don't know. I believe it's called the phase angle. Basically, it's Moho doesn't orbit at the same angle around the sun, Kerbal, as most of the other planets do. So you have other planets like Duna is really easy to get to because it's only off by like 10 delta V. So if you have to change a phase angle, it's like very, very small. But you can see me here trying to get a capture. And I have eventually get the capture, but it's ridiculously expensive. I don't know if you see how much delta V I'm planning on using there, but it looks like just to get us into capture for this second round of delta V, I think I end up spending like 3,500 meters per second of delta V. It's sort of ridiculous. And that's when I realized how difficult it actually is to get to Moho. I think at some point I just decided that I was going to I'm just going to change my phase angle or so we are lined up and then get ourselves in a stable capture of Moho, which isn't necessarily the easiest. Now, one of the things that happened is I tried this before, and I forgot that these newer guys tend to run out of power because of the reaction wheels tend to suck up a lot of power while you're in space. So I've got these two huge solar panels that I remembered to open up this time, so we will make it there. So here we are making our burn to align the orbit with Moho, and that took a long time. This is, of course, playing at 4 times speed, so we'll see that take place. And now what I'm trying to do is figure out how the heck to get how the heck can I get Moho to capture this ship? And I eventually find it way on the other side of the sun. It's like ridiculously far away. I don't know. I'll probably have to do a few more calculations when I decide to do this again, because we are doing this again, because the plan is to do a manned mission where we actually go back to Kerbal. I think a manned mission getting there is actually pretty easy, but actually I think both ways are going to be pretty easy, because we really just need a transfer vehicle that's going to be really, really slow. But, and you look at all that delta V that we need. I can't quite read it, but let's see. Yeah, that's 2600 delta V that I'm going to need. Now here I am. This is Conics patch mode number 1. I find it really, really easy for me because I can just change where I'm focused onto Moho or whatever planet that I'm going to, and then adjust everything to get myself really, really close in there. It makes it really easy. Here we are doing a ridiculously long burn, and this is 4 times speed, but I've also got this up to physics warp, the highest physics warp we have, which is also 4 times. So as you can imagine, this burn is taking forever, and it's going to be even longer when we decide to take our little Kerbals there. Kerbals? Yeah, Kerbals. Because, yeah, we're going to need a lot of delta V, and usually if you need a lot of delta V, it means you have a lot less thrust, but a lot bigger rocket to carry all that fuel. So we might even have to make a couple swings around Kerbal just to escape Kerbal orbit. So here we are, and I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Luckily, see that tank on the back there? It's an extra fuel tank, and I can eject it in order to, I can eject it for a little extra delta V. But I didn't want to eject it until I knew that the thing was going to be on a collision course with Moho. So here I am lining up my course, and I'm going to make it a collision course. So here we go. We're going to make this burn to inject sort of up over the top, and I'll tell you why we're doing that later. And then we remove that extra fuel tank, and then we're going to make sure that we at this point our ship doesn't run into Moho, because I don't want to run into Moho. I do want that extra tank to run into Moho because I don't want my space full of crap. So that's why we do that. Here we go, pushing it up, and we're going to make a nice thing. Now here I'm trying to find Moho, and it's there, but it's ridiculously hard. And see here, you can see I'm using Mechjeb, their warp helper, in order to warp forward, because one time when I was playing way back, I warped right past the planet, and that is sort of devastating, especially when you don't quick save a lot. Like me, I don't tend to quick save unless I'm really worried about landing on a planet. My last mission, just before I decided to do this, I did a manned mission to Duna, and I was the quick save master. So here you see Moho is just coming into view because the sun is ridiculously bright at this speed. It is blistering, and for our Kerbals, I don't know, they're probably going to want to wear a little bit of sunscreen. So this takes, I don't know, a lot, about 2,000 delta V in order to just get an orbit around here. Like I said, it is a lot of delta V that this thing requires in order to just orbit around here. And I just make it. I just get a thing around there. And of course, nobody wants that pesky transfer stage sticking around. So I'm going to crash this transfer stage in there, and we'll say we're doing it in the name of science. There actually are several missions that they've done. I believe they're actually doing one with our moon right now, where they're going to crash something in and see what happens. It might not actually be doing it. I know they did it with Europa. So we'll say we're doing this in the name of science, and our vessel is going to see what sort of particles fly up when we crash into Moho. Of course, 0.22 is the one that's going to have all of those scientific experiments that come out. So we're not actually doing it, but we'll say we're doing it. So now what I'm doing is using our SAS to get us all the way up into a nice 100-meter orbit. So 100-kilometer orbit. 100 meters would not be good. And then at this point, I'm going to tell you why I'm orbiting over the top. See, with most planets, if you orbit over the top and you turn on Mapsat as the planet turns, you just continue to map more and more of the planet. Moho's a little bit different. Moho is tidally locked with the sun, which really sucks. We're not going to get the maps that we really need. It does have a lot of monopropellant, so I might be able to just adjust, map some more, adjust, map some more, which is going to be ridiculously painful, and I wouldn't subject you guys to that. So there is the first successful mission of Sweet EMohoTions. Next thing we're probably going to do is design a ship that will be able to get here and back. Thanks for watching. See you later.